What if everything people over 65 believe about success is completely backward? What if the real difference between people who thrive in old age and people who slowly fall apart has almost nothing to do with money, intelligence, luck, or even health? There is one pattern researchers keep finding, again and again in Americans over 70. One invisible trait that quietly separates people who continue growing from people who emotionally surrender long before their body gives out, and most seniors never notice it happening. At 85 years old, many people believe life becomes a waiting room. They think the biggest battles are already over. But psychologists studying aging discovered something unsettling. Some people become mentally old decades before their body declines. Others remain emotionally alive deep into their 80s and 90s, even with physical limitations. Why? That question changed the direction of aging research in America. In the early 1970s, scientists studying retirement patterns expected older adults to become less active, less ambitious, and less emotionally resilient over time. Instead, researchers noticed something surprising. A small percentage of seniors continued adapting, learning, and rebuilding their lives despite illness, financial loss, grief, and aging itself. These individuals were not necessarily healthier. They were not always wealthier, but they shared one hidden behavior pattern, and most people missed it. To understand where this difference begins, you have to go back to early adulthood. Most people are raised believing success means avoiding failure, good grades, stable jobs, safe decisions, social approval. Over time, the brain becomes conditioned to protect comfort instead of pursuing growth. At first, this feels responsible. But slowly, something dangerous happens. Fear of discomfort becomes a lifestyle. Researchers studying long-term behavior patterns found that adults who avoid emotional risk early in life gradually lose psychological flexibility over time. They become more resistant to change, more fearful of uncertainty, and more emotionally fragile during transitions. The consequences rarely appear immediately. That is why people miss them. The changes begin quietly in the 40s. This is where life starts narrowing. Many people stop trying new things. They repeat the same routines, the same conversations, the same fears. Career disappointment hardens into identity. Relationship problems become permanent patterns. Physical health habits decline slowly. And emotionally, many begin operating from protection instead of possibility. But society rewards this. People call it settling down. What nobody explains is that emotional rigidity grows stronger with age unless deliberately challenged. Then comes the shift after 70 that most seniors completely ignore. Loss increases. Friends disappear, careers end, physical strength changes, family roles shift, and suddenly, the people who spent decades avoiding discomfort face a brutal reality. Life keeps changing anyway. This is the breaking point. Some seniors emotionally collapse here. They become bitter, isolated, angry, fearful, or mentally passive. Others adapt. They rebuild routines, learn technology, form new friendships, stay curious, maintain purpose, continue growing psychologically despite aging. Physically, that is when researchers finally saw the real dividing line. The difference between winners and losers in old age is not talent. It is adaptability. That is the word. Adaptability. The willingness to adjust instead of emotionally surrender. Studies from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies on human happiness, repeatedly found that psychological flexibility strongly predicts emotional well-being and longevity later in life. Seniors who adapt to change instead of resisting it show lower stress levels, stronger social bonds, and better overall mental health outcomes. But most people misunderstand adaptability. They think it means pretending everything is fine. It does not. It means refusing to let hardship become identity. And this pattern repeats across millions of seniors in the United States today. According to national aging surveys, loneliness, depression, and emotional isolation rise sharply after retirement, especially among adults who lose structure and purpose. Many struggle not because aging itself destroys them, but because they never learned how to emotionally rebuild after major life changes. That is the hidden crisis nobody talks about. People spend decades building careers, routines, and identities, but never build emotional resilience. So when change arrives, they break internally. And the fallout spreads everywhere. Health declines faster, motivation disappears, financial mistakes increase, social isolation grows. Even physical recovery becomes harder because the brain loses belief in improvement. Researchers studying aging and recovery found that mindset directly affects rehabilitation outcomes, activity levels, and even mortality risk among seniors. Now here comes the twist. Most people never expect. Many seniors try fixing this problem using outdated advice that actually makes things worse. Just relax. You've earned the right to stop trying at your age. Slow down. On the surface, this sounds comforting, but psychologically, complete disengagement accelerates emotional decline. Retirement without purpose often creates mental stagnation. Studies show seniors who maintain meaningful goals, learning habits, and social engagement experience better cognitive and emotional outcomes than those who fully withdraw from challenge. In other words, the human brain does not age well in emotional surrender. It ages best in purposeful adaptation. That does not mean exhausting yourself. It means staying mentally alive. At 85, the people who still thrive are usually not the strongest physically. They are the ones who kept adjusting, kept learning, kept participating in life after disappointment, grief, illness, or failure tried to shut them down. And here is the hardest truth. Most losing in life happens quietly. Not through dramatic collapse, but through gradual emotional retreat. A person stops trying new things. Stops believing change is possible, stops taking care of relationships, stops imagining a future. That is how many people become old long before they become elderly. So, what can people over 60 start doing right now? First, deliberately challenge routine. Learn something unfamiliar, visit new places, change small habits. Psychological flexibility grows through exposure to manageable uncertainty. Second, protect purpose aggressively. Purpose is not optional in aging. Research consistently shows that seniors with daily meaning experience better emotional and physical outcomes. Third, stop identifying yourself by limitations. Aging changes ability, but it does not eliminate growth. The moment a person defines themselves only by decline, emotional deterioration accelerates. And here is the warning experts increasingly emphasize. The brain becomes what it repeatedly practices. If you practice fear, withdrawal, and passivity for years, those patterns become harder to reverse later in life. But there is one final question that changes everything. If adaptability truly separates winners from losers in old age, then what part of your current life are you resisting instead of learning from? That answer may quietly predict your future more than genetics ever will. If this video challenged the way you think about aging, take a moment to like and share it with someone who needs encouragement right now. And in the comments, answer honestly. Do you think most people grow stronger with age, or simply more afraid of change? Subscribe now, because in the next video, we're uncovering the hidden daily habits that mentally strong seniors use to stay emotionally powerful even after 80.